her emphasis was, right, she frankly told me that, I don't want AYJNIHH to be an institute where, we are just, focusing on the speech pathology audiology side, because the original charter is National Institute for Hearing Handicap. We also need to take care of that. So she's upgraded that, B.Ed to M.Ed. It was a wonderful idea, right? 2 tracks going on, speech language pathology, audiology, and then M.Ed, B.Ed. And then under her, because I know when she joined in 1988, there was no MSc. People there was the only MSc programs were, I think, AYJNIHH. So then under her, the MSc program started, 1995 or 96. It started at Calcutta and Southern Regional Center, Secunderabad. They started their MSc. But then she was still not, her this thing was to strengthen the district rehabilitation, where the function as that. And she left in 2000, June end was her last, June 30th, 2000 was her last day as director. During her time, she set the paperwork and the foundation for the CRC Bhopal. And there was a CRC Srinagar at that time, J&K State, So those 2 she started, and under her. And so she was like, and the other thing that, as in NIHH, she wanted her legacy to be, she many people, for various reasons, used to, in fact, in Bengal more, many people who were working in private practice, many audiologists and speech therapists used to spread the canard that Mrs. Rekha, don't send for therapy to Mrs. Rekha or auditory training. She is against hearing aids or against dispensing hearing aids. Yes, she was against just audiologists doing it in an unprofessional way, but her aim was that, forget real ear insertion. That is the most ideal thing, real ear insertion measurements, would be the most ideal, but at least you should do it in a sound treated room, do the functional gain, aided, unaided audiograms, and at least introduce some kind of speech and noise test to mimic the, the outside, the real world noise scenario. Because otherwise dispensing, just like a technician, according to her, was doing bad, bringing bad name to audiology. And in fact, I don't know whether in the US, you must, if you look around, if you hear people who are residents of skilled nursing facility, whether subacute or long-term care, people who wear hearing aid, the biggest concern when it's not working, or at least 50% of them, they said that, they thought that the audiologist just dispense the hearing aid like a used car salesman, and I feel bad, because audiology is also part of me, So when I hear that, I remember how my mother, how strong was the importance or the sagacity in the stand taken by my mother that, we should not, And in fact, if you recall, ASHA for a long time was against audiologists dispensing hearing aid, even in this country.
I'm Satyendra Kumar. I worked as reader and assistant director at the Northern Regional Center of AYJNIHH from 1987 to 1996. Most of this time was with Mrs. Rekha Roy as the director of AYJNIHH Mumbai. During this period, I got to know her very well, both professionally as well as personally. Mrs. Roy, throughout her professional life, worked very hard for the education and rehabilitation of the persons with hearing impairment. As director, she started various undergraduate and graduate level courses in speech and hearing and education of the deaf both at the regional centers and at the headquarters, Mumbai. She led efforts to provide vocational training and increased employment opportunities for the deaf. Other significant programs during that period included preschool training for children with hearing impairment, increased collaboration with non-governmental and voluntary organizations, and outreach programs to provide services in remote areas or regions where such services were not available. She encouraged research activities to support the various programs. Personally, she helped me learn and grow by having me accompany her to several governmental, high-level and technical meetings. She also provided me with opportunities to represent the Institute at several important scientific, technical and educational forums. We developed a very good working relationship and she treated me very well, like a colleague and a friend. Our families got to know each other. I enjoyed her cooking and hospitality during my visit and stay with their family in Calcutta and Mumbai. It was shocking to hear about her untimely passing away. She will be missed greatly. Thanks.
Talking about Rekha Roy, madam, it gives me a lot of privilege and honor, and I really feel that, oh my God, I'm going to talk about it. So much to talk about. But in this little bit of time, I can tell about the major things which I remember, more than remember, which are very important, which were and are very important to the Institute. Like when I joined in August 1987. And at that time, Rekha Roy madam was the director. And I remember it was actually 7th August and 8th August, we had the annual day function. And she was very much there and she was trying to see how things are going on. And later, I saw that I was not only going to be a clinical assistant, we were called clinical assistants then. Now they have been called audiologists and speech language pathologists. So I thought my role would be just to take the cases for therapy, the children. But more than that, we had the UNICEF funded projects during her time. So I remember 2 projects very well. The project for the speech department was called U2D. So that was creating material for awareness of speech and hearing disorders among the rural workers. So that in that project, we had to go to the rural areas and we had to prepare songs and folk songs and poems and then teach them and make them aware. Of course, there was a big team of singers and recorders and people from many other departments were involved, but it was basically of the speech department. And I was the clinical assistant then. So that project was such that we developed a lot of material for awareness of speech and hearing disorders. And the material was used from that time, 87 till the date or even till now, I took my voluntary retirement in 2020. So right from 87 to 2020, it was there and it's still being there and being used. So that was a big thing which we did under madam's guidance. I remember that we used to go to these rural villages in small vans. That time those vans are new. Now still the vans are there. And madam used to be very, very kind to not go into too many formalities. Okay, this one, you put up an application and that's about it. It may have reached a little late, but she would say, you just carry on with your work. Just go ahead. Don't wait for me. I know that you need this. The group needs a van and you have to go ahead. Just leave it at the office to whoever the secretary and you'll go ahead. So she was very kind to not fall into too much of formality and let us do our work. So that was a major thing. At that time, there was a project even under audiology department. It was more towards assessment of hearing. And there are things like things to do at home to find out whether you have a hearing loss. Like there was, I remember very well, it was ek khel sunne ka, so something, some noises and sounds would be made, and then the child had to respond. And so those kinds of really important projects which would be needed by a rural person and can be used by urban and semi-urban people also, they were going on during Madam's time. Then I can associate Madam with growth of the institute, because 1983 the institute was founded. I joined in 1987. Things were there here and there. Things were building up, and Madam was looking into progress. So I remember we were teaching or supervising the first year BASL, not supervising, we were kind of taking our own students for therapy. And the first year BASLP students used to observe us, me and Sadhna Madam. And it was really fun. When you look back at it now, it was tough that time. So we were all clinical assistants. So then in 2000 year, it happened that the clinical supervisor's post came up. So always there was a growth. So it was like the senior most would be promoted to that position. So that made us feel, okay, there is something else. And we had not done I had just done my master's. Yeah, even Sadhna Madam and Aparna Madam and done their master's. And you have your master's and then you are the supervisor there. So some avenue for us to grow. And even as a clinical assistant, we would be sitting there taking our cases, the children for therapy. And I remember a lot of rounds by Rekha Roy Madam and Nagaraj sir coming to check out what is happening. Are the rooms okay? Are there enough rooms over there? Anything we needed? And then for the budget and all, we as clinicians, we used to just tell our head of the department, Dr. Mani Rao that time. And she would see to it that all those things we would get. So speech also had a lot of importance as much as audiology. Because it was called AYJNIHH National Institute for Hearing Handicap. Not only hearing, speech also was given equal importance. So during her time, it went from clinical assistant to clinical supervisor. That was a great thing. And something I remember now, I was working earlier before this at certain private organizations and schools, and the salary which I used to get was like 500 rupees. And then I got into AYJNIHH, it was 1800 rupees. And then you go to the supervisors, that is a government-based thing, but then a person to let it go forward and voice for us would be Rekha Roy Madam. So I remember so well about all these things. Another thing about growth when she was there was the master's program. We are such a national level institute. We had to have the master's program. If we wouldn't have it, it would have been so bad. So in 1995, I think was the first batch during Madam's time. I was in the third batch, 1997, 99 was my master's program. And yeah, she was there. And I remember at all the meetings, and we used to be there and discuss about our dissertation. And she used to be there. And it felt very proud that, at the end of the day, after 2 years, we were in-service candidates. Of course, they checked out there were rules and regulations to see that we have passed at the first time, our bachelor's, and we had a particular percentage of marks to get into the master's program. That was taken care of. And being in service, like, there are two edges to it, that you have to perform well, you're in service. At the same time, that it's a master's program, it's new. We have just been bachelors. So we were given, like, we were considered, and it was not like normal for all of us. It's like, not that because you're in service, you should do the best. We were, according to whatever we were performing, we were given the marks. And there were one thing is that there was nothing like we are in service, so we will not do this much of audiological testing, or we will get the easy way through. No, that was not there. It was all very smooth and nice and rule bound at whatever it is we got, our education and whatever postings and everything was there. So, and I remember then coming with the dissertation, Dr. Mani Rao, and then Rekha Roy Madam, the signature. And of course, the dissertations will always be there with us. We had this thing called, Mani Rao Madam had told us to do we used to have the parent professional partnership. So we had to have, it was called by us as parent counseling. So all the children with mostly hearing impairment, but there used to be also speech. We had to call the once in 3 months or something. I don't remember exactly. We used to counsel. There used to be a group, and that was basically the idea of Joan DeMello madam, and then it was then brought forward by for speech by Manira madam, and then Rekha Roy madam always supported that yes, parents are the ones, they should be empowered. That was the thing. And then she encouraged people that whatever you are, even bachelors, you may be, you need to write about things, you need to have publications, and you need to write up about what you are doing. And then Manira madam used to insist on us, you're doing all this. We had the entire transparencies and written matter for training the rural workers and the parents. So we had the parent professional partnership, a book. And that book was used very much by us. So when people couldn't even think of, we were into the rural areas teaching and all, and we came up with that book. And then Medha madam then went ahead. So Rekha Roy madam used to encourage us, go ahead, see that it's published, do something. So I remember Medha madam getting the signature of Maneka Gandhi on that, on our parent professional. That book was, it's there in the cupboards. Now I'm not there. I can tell you if all the things are in place, it's this cupboard here, there are the copies. So that was a big thing also. In education wise, she had said that two things. One is that you should write an individual education plan. And the second thing she said, you clinical assistants, you all should have a clinical diary. What do you do all the time? So that the clinical diary was a requirement by the government itself, ministry. So the individual education plan, when I think about it, like now, since I'm working in schools over here, how very well you have to write the individual education plan. It is so many rules here in the United States and the acts and all that how you go about writing the whole thing, take the consent of the parents, write your goal. When this is presented to the child, then this will be done at this much percentage criteria, which will be checked by the SLP. So all of that, because she had been for Fulbright or she had been abroad and she had this exposure. And we used to wonder, why does madam want to make us write all this in detail? But this was for your accountability to the student, to the client, that you're writing the education plan. So I used to wonder that this education plan, we are not educationists, that we are clinicians and we have people for speech therapy and not for education. So that she had told us. And second thing, she said, if anybody asks me what work you'll do, I have nothing to show. Then she would tell the HODs, see that they have the clinical diaries. So till date, I've followed clinical diaries. I have all my diaries at home. I should get rid of them. Since 87, everybody knows I have to pin down everything. 9 o'clock to this time, this was done. This parent said this. That, of course, they didn't want us to do that. We have a timetable kind of a sheet and write in points. What clients did you see and what was the outcome, or there may be no outcome or whatever. That was the thing which she had introduced at that time, which was one of the requirements. But she had told us in a nice way and told the HODs that see that these things come up. So all of that, which of that time is applicable today. For me, I feel, oh my God, that individual education plan, I just rang a bell when I started in the schools writing it. This is what it is. And diaries, I just went into this habit of diaries. So anybody would ask me anything, what happened, the instrument, this happened, it would be there, okay, on this date, this person came and this was done. That was because of two people, Manira madam and Rekha Roy madam had said that it's better because she's responsible for all the people and their work. So what work are you doing? So she will not be able to tell. The HOD will be telling, okay, in short, these are the duties. This is your job role. But then we should be able to tell. And then it's not that we are just taking students and clients and clients. You have to do more. You have to publish papers. So these are the things which are just coming up with the talk. Like, yeah, this was what she used to be this about documentation, which is so important. So library and building up the libraries also, she was good about it. Books were just flowing in like anything. We had and have, and now we also have an e-library. And so that was always there. And she was very much instrumental into seeing that you get all the books. The instrumentation, oh my God, it was so good. We had whatever instruments we needed at that time, which were available. So we had the Wagmi, then we had, I remember FJ Electronics, we had the electroglottogram. Then we had, if I remember very correctly, we had the digital sonograph. Okay, digital sonograph was of K Elemetrix, which is now K Pentax. It was a huge, we used to call it a dabba, actually. And we used to get so scared to use it. But then once Manira madam taught us how to use it and get the spectrographs. And it was actually till date, till until I left, it was working. So once we had the owner of this, the founder of the company, Dr. Stephen Crum of KL Metrics, he sold it to Pentax now recently. He had come for a student, he had come to Mumbai, and then we invited him. And then he said, oh my God, this is the digital sonograph. And this institute, AYJNIHH has bought it the first in the world.
Wow.
And he checked it out and it was working. It didn't have the ink because everything was digital then by the time he came. It was a physical, nice, with the physical transformers and conductors or whatever circuitry, physical ones, not the O's and not the zeros and ones. And with splicing and 2 different channels for doing synthetic speech, synthesizing the speech. So we had all of that at that time. And when he said it was the first in the world and it's still there, and then we were thinking that we'll make a museum kind of a thing of old Wagmi, digital sonograph and all that coming up. Second thing, instrument, which I remember. So this all has come within her time, madam's time. Of course, the technical aspects of it would be Manira madam suggesting, but seeing that the department is having the latest technology, that is what she focused on. She gave a green signal, just go ahead. So we had the fiber optic flexible nasopharyngeal laryngoscopy at that time. So in 1999, I remember we had a project with Watumal Hospital in Bandra. It was for the cleft palate, and there was Dr. So all that was done in 1999, 98. And the credit of this, firstly, I can say credit goes to so many people involved. Manira madam and her ideas about things. Then Kalpesh Gaziwala sir, plastic surgeon, who came all the way. And then to approve of that, then Rekha Roy madam just approving it. It was very expensive at that. We had the ATMOS one. And then after that, we got second, third, fourth. So we had 4 fiber optic flexible laryngoscope later. With the certain things came up in Renaissance's time. But the first one was of ATMOS. It's still there. I don't think it works now when I left 2020, but it was there. And it was like cutting edge technology, I can say, which a national institute should have. We had it at that time. And it developed. The growth part of it was during madam's time. Further growth, of course, then the others to go. But that starting part, allowing this for speech, when basically you are an institute for hearing handicapped children and hearing impairment, but you are doing for speech this. Why will anybody say that, okay, cleft lip and palate, what it has to do with hearing impairment? Why should we give say yes for a huge budget for a laryngoscope and all that? Why should we do it? But no problems. We had just gone ahead at that time. These are the main areas. And then personally also I can talk about so much, but in the sense, personally she was a lover of arts a lot. I remember on my first, when 8th August, and there was a function and somebody told her I play the sitar. So she sorted that I must play the sitar on that day. I said, no, I've just joined. I don't know this place. But she said for 5 minutes at least. So I just had a small recital. And then each year she would tell me, but then I had forgotten and I didn't carry on with that. But she used to tell me, you have to keep up. You have to keep up with your art. You have to do it. You cannot let it go by. Then one more thing personally I remember about her was my mom, she was the lawyer for the institute. Institute had, there was some robbery of the typewriters of those days and the pans. And somehow Mr. Varadkar was that deputy director administration, and he had gone to the court and he saw my mother was very busy and she was like asked to just look after this case, and which she won later. But because of that, my mom and dad used to come freely to the institute. My mom was more of an introvert, but my dad, he was very much impressed by the institute in that area, Bandra reclamation. We were living in Bandra West. Reclamation was a dirty area, no proper bus services. And this lovely institute has come up, and then my daughter is working there. And let me see who's the director over there. So my dad happened to come there once. And then from then on, he used to come once in 3 months. And he used to just walk inside. Madam, he used to say, Rekha Roy, madam, in the whole corridor. He said, Rekha Roy, madam, how is everything going? How's the institute? What are you doing? And he would ask, is my daughter contributing well enough? How is she doing? So I remember that she has never told him that, okay, you wait out, we are talking or we're having a meeting or whatever, or you take an appointment. Never. And whenever he used to walk in, it would be end of a particular month, say 29th, 30th, and he would just walk in. Rekha Roy, madam, how are you? How is the institute? How is my daughter? Is she contributing? All that would go on. So very kind person Rekha Roy, madam was. And at the time when her tenure got over, we felt very sad that madam will not be with us. But she continued in the field, and throughout anything, we always felt she was with us. If we wanted to also, we had that thing, if we need something or we need to talk to her, she would be there. We could call her. So that was, she was a great person. I wish I would be there to see her during her last days, but then we were all so far apart. Yeah, thank you.
She used to invite me as a visiting professor, and I used to go there and used to work. We did several workshops with her actually in multiple sites, both in actually several cities, not only just Kolkata, but also in Mumbai and Delhi, New Delhi. So we used to host a workshop with her in different cities. And it's interestingly, I'm still doing that for after 20 years. And still I go to India frequently, at least once a year, and do this kind of speech and swallowing rehab for, and mostly because that's my area of expertise in head and neck cancer and reconstruction with microvascular surgery and just for rehabilitation of speech and swallowing. So that's I think she inspired me to pursue this career, especially for rehab part. And I'm only very few. I'm one of very handful surgeon really who promote rehab in our field. And now my students, my residents, my colleagues are now getting more and more into this. But because of her inspiration, I also became very interested in this rehab program, especially for speech and swallowing.
It's a pleasant duty on my part to talk about Mrs. Rekha Roy. I'm very happy to jot down some of the points. I just came to know her as a director of AYJNIHH in early 90s. I was an associate professor then at Nair Hospital, Mumbai. In 1995, we both attended a meeting at AYJNIHH and then traveled together from Mysore to Bangalore, wherein I learned that she was a teacher in 1960s at AYJNIHH and taught Professor Jagdish and Dr. Vyasmurthy, my teacher. And it was at that time when I dialogued with her while traveling to Bangalore that she had a long, glorious journey over in the profession. As I mentioned above, I have had a short period of knowing Rekha Roy since early 90s till she retired. But however, I learned quite a lot in that short period. In the professional meeting regarding speech and hearing at the college or university. College used to be just between Nair and AYJ. And at the university, there were BOS meeting, that is Board of Studies meeting, wherein there were a lot of discussions. And at the end of deliberation, it was an she would take firm decisions. And it was an important step then because the MUHS, that is Maharashtra University of Health Science, had just started and there were a lot of teething issues. But she would firmly take some decision along with Professor Jagdish, who was HOD at Nair Hospital then. And it was a good solution for the problem the university was facing. Now, in addition, I used to visit AYJ for some work or the other, and I have at that time witnessed at times her abilities to boldly face adverse challenges at workplace without losing her cool, especially when not much cooperation around was available, because there used to be lot of issues, and people were not wholeheartedly giving her cooperation. But I found her very boldly taking steps and taking the firm decisions. On a personal side, I found her very loving and caring person. On several occasions, there were interactions where she really showed an affection, and there was no need, but there were, she was I was just an associate professor, but she would give me some mementos, like an aunt for Durga Devi, as she was aware that I was I am a devotee of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. On another occasion, after one of the meetings at Delhi RCI speech committee, we both did me to Delhi. Both went and had a nice time. And at the end, she bought something and she presented it, from the exhibition ground. So I found her very caring, and she would. I think she had a good. Uh, what would you say? She had a good uh, personal this thing with me, and she would discuss her health issues and her family health issues also with me, uh, which was, I mean, though we didn't meet much, but we had a good cordial relation, and she found a good friend in me, I would say. Of course, I always felt she was very, and I could discuss with her whatever I would discuss personal or problems. Found is with so many problems that she had her own personal issues, but she had a bold, she would put a bold front. Deterred her from taking decisions and facing the problems with zeal and, So she had told me that I must, whenever I come to Calcutta, I must visit her, and she would take me to SHIRC and show her in, which was, I think, her baby, and she was really nurturing it very well. That's what I learned from others, but unfortunately, I was not able to do so. So, what I would say, I have a great memories of her, great fond memories of her. And what I find her is a lovely, smiling, and very enthusiastic until last at AYJ, where she had come for her health issue, and she was in the this thing in what do you call it? It's a guest house, AYJ guest house. And I met her at that time. That was my last meeting with her. And she was so enthusiastic, talking about work at SHIRC and telling me about all things that are going on, in spite of her really health issue that she had come to attend for. So I really find her extremely nice and extremely enthusiastic about her work till end, that I met her at the last moment, at the last time at AYJ. I think that's all that I can share my views about her. Thank you so much. And